you. I now recognize the gentlelady from Washington, Representative Jayapal, for your 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for holding what I think is a really important and informative hearing. Thank you very much to our witnesses. I think we're all concerned about the plight of the millions harmed by the military junta in Burma and the many others, including especially the Rohingya, who have fled to all these neighboring countries. And I think as I've been listening to the three of you, I'm reminded again about the importance of all the tools in our toolbox. And I know this hearing is titled America's Limited Options. I think we actually have more options in front of us than perhaps we are recognizing. And I'm reminded in my 10 years of development work across the world, including in South and Southeast Asia, the three-legged stool was always security, humanitarian assistance, and development assistance. And I think that that is still relevant here. I wanted to talk about China first because I think both Mr. Ross and Ambassador Curry, you've both spoken about this, and I think it's critically important. Given China's demonstrated interest in keeping the military junta in power, can you just briefly discuss why that is actually a reason for clear and consistent U.S. engagement in Burma? Because I think there's a constant discussion in the United States about whether something is in the American interest. And to me, you both have laid out a very clear case for why it is in our interest to engage on this issue. So maybe if you can briefly speak to this. I know, Mr. Ross, you recently authored an article about this topic as well.
Sure, I can start. Thank you for the question. I think clear and consistent is a really important factor here. Since the coup, I think expectations have been raised about what the role the U.S. and other international actors can and will be in Myanmar. There are significant authorities that exist, particularly under the Burma Act and under the executive order that came out after the coup, but those have not been fully implemented to the extent possible. And that both created expectations among the population in Myanmar about what role the U.S. would play and provided a pretext for China to become more involved and more fully back the Myanmar military. So I think being clear and consistent is an important through line for U.S. policy on Myanmar. I would add just a degree of nuance on China, which is that the relationship between the Myanmar military and China is a somewhat uncomfortable one. China does not like Min Aung Hlaing, and they are hoping that these elections create an alternate source of power that they can back instead of him. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that things will play out in that way. I think Min Aung Hlaing wants to hold on to both the commander-in-chief role and the presidency. And if that plays out in that way, it's possible that the pendulum of Chinese support for the military regime will shift back in a different direction. But more broadly, I think that engaging clearly, consistently, finding ways to support the various democratic and resistance actors that have the support of the people in Myanmar and are building up grassroots governance structures that will be a model for going forward is a way to go for U.S. policy.
Anything you want to quickly add, Ambassador?
Yes, ma'am. I would agree with what Steve says. I do think that the people themselves, again, like I said, this is DIY revolution. They are doing it on the ground too. It's not just the armed struggle. It's also the governance structures they're building up. It's also the interethnic dialogues that are happening. They are painful, sometimes very ugly, sometimes very foolish, but they are happening in a way that has never happened before in the history of this country. And this is extremely healthy and important. It's costing us nothing for these things to happen, but we can support them in some important ways. We did cut off some critical support that I think should come back. I think we also need to think about Thailand with a long border with Burma and our relationship with Thailand. They are our oldest security ally in the region.
Ambassador, I'm so sorry. I want to get in a question for
Yes,
Ms. Karim before my time runs out. So I want to quickly, I'm the top Democrat, the ranking member on the Immigration Subcommittee, and refugee resettlement has long been a bipartisan issue and a tool in our foreign assistance toolbox. And I know that you were resettled in the United States, but due to this current administration's very restrictive immigration policies, it would be almost impossible for you to resettle. Can you talk about your experience resettling and also why it's so important for us to keep that refugee resettlement program strong?
Sorry, I see there's not even a second. So
Hopefully the chairwoman will just indulge your answer.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think, as you can see, I'm one of the many examples, and I also want to acknowledge this. The resettlement program is one of the many solutions that we need. As I did mention, the ultimate goal for us is to return back to home when it is safe to do so. Yeah. And it is not that there's no condition or situation for us right now and for refugees in Cox's Bazar to go back. Mm-hmm. However, given as you have heard from three of us, given the current situations in the camps in Bangladesh and across the regions in Asia and Pacific countries, it is very important to continue bringing refugees to these countries, a country that care about the human rights, a country that gives identity to refugees, and a country that allows me to call a place home that I was never able to call a home for my entire life, and that actually allows me to continue advocating for millions of people who are left behind. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you. We're so fortunate to have you in this country.